The headlights of Garrett Holloway's pickup truck sliced through the darkness, and that's when he saw her. A ghost in a white dress, barefoot, standing in the middle of Highway 24, as if waiting for someone to end her life. He slammed the brakes. The truck skidded on wet asphalt, tires screaming against the rain-soaked road. His heart stopped. The vehicle shuddered, hydroplaned for a terrifying second, then came to rest mere feet from where she stood. She didn't flinch, didn't move, didn't even blink. Rain hammered the windshield in sheets so thick Garrett could barely see. But he could see her, soaked through that thin white dress clinging to her frame like a second skin. No shoes, no coat, nothing but fabric and flesh against the October storm. And those eyes, empty as abandoned houses, as if whoever had once lived behind them had long since departed. Garrett threw the truck into park and jumped out. The rain hit him like ice needles, instantly soaking through his flannel shirt. He didn't care. He approached her slowly, the way he might approach a wounded animal. Ma'am, are you okay? She turned toward his voice, slowly, deliberately, like someone moving through water, or through memory. Her voice was barely audible over the storm. I don't know where I am. You're on Highway 24, about 10 miles outside Pine Hollow, Colorado. He held out his work jacket. Here, put this on. You're going to freeze to death. She looked at the jacket as if she'd never seen one before. Then slowly she reached out. When her fingers brushed his hand, they were cold as marble. What's your name? Garrett asked gently. A long pause, her brow furrowed in concentration, as if searching through fog for something solid to hold on to. Iris, she said finally. I think my name is Iris. Okay, Iris, I'm Garrett. Let's get you somewhere warm. He guided her toward the truck, and that's when he noticed the bruises, faint purple marks circling her wrists, the kind made by restraints, and on her jaw, a thin scar, pale and old, running from ear to chin. She climbed into the passenger seat like someone relearning how to exist in their own body. Garrett cranked the heat to maximum and pulled back onto the road. Is there someone I can call? He asked. Family? Friends? Iris stared straight ahead, seeing something he couldn't. There's nothing before the rain, she whispered. Just white walls and needles. 6 days ago, a fire had broken out in a facility somewhere in Wyoming. Electrical malfunction in the basement. In the chaos, doors had unlocked, alarms had failed, and Iris had run. She didn't know how far, didn't know how long. A truck driver had given her a ride part of the way, but when he started asking questions, she'd fled at a rest stop. Walked until her feet bled, hitched another ride, walked more. 300 miles of running from something she couldn't remember, toward nothing she could name, until the rain, until the highway, until him. Garrett's blood ran cold as he listened to her fragmented account. Whatever had happened to this woman, it was far worse than getting lost in a storm. 20 years ago, on this very stretch of highway, the only daughter of billionaire Edmund Thornwood had vanished without a trace. Police searched for 5 years before closing the case. The world forgot about her, but tonight, in the storm, someone had returned from the dead. Garrett's house sat at the end of Maple Street, a modest 2-story with peeling blue paint and a porch that listed slightly to the left. He'd been meaning to fix both for 2 years now, ever since Laurel died. But grief had a way of making time disappear, of stealing the motivation to repair things that no longer seemed to matter. He helped Iris inside, flicking on lights as they went. The living room was cluttered with the beautiful chaos of single fatherhood. His daughter Wren's drawings plastered across the refrigerator, a basket of unfolded laundry on the couch, toys scattered like colorful landmines across the floor, and everywhere, the faint scent of lavender from the candles Laurel used to love. Garrett still bought them. He couldn't seem to stop. Bathroom's down the hall, he said, grabbing a towel from the linen closet. There should be some of my wife's old clothes in the spare room. She was about your size. Iris took the towel but didn't move. Her eyes had found the photographs on the mantel. Garrett and Laurel on their wedding day, Ren as a baby, the three of them at Disneyland the year before everything changed. Your wife, Iris said softly. She passed. Cancer. 2 years ago. I'm sorry. Yeah. Garrett cleared his throat. Me too. Go on, get warm. I'll make some tea. While Iris showered, Garrett stood in the kitchen, hands gripping the counter, knuckles white. His mind raced. The bruises on her wrists, the scar on her jaw, the vacant look in her eyes. This woman had been through something terrible, something that had stripped away her very identity. Every instinct told him he should call the police, social services, someone official. But another instinct, the one that had kept him alive through 2 tours in Afghanistan, the one Laurel used to call his guardian angel sense, told him to wait, to let this play out a little longer. He heard the shower shut off. 10 minutes later, Iris emerged wearing Laurel's old gray cardigan and a pair of jeans that were slightly too long. Her dark hair hung in damp waves around her shoulders. Color had returned to her cheeks, and she looked more human now, less like the ghost he'd nearly hit on the highway. Garrett handed her a mug of chamomile tea and watched as she wrapped both hands around it, drawing comfort from its warmth. And that's when he noticed the way she held the cup, pinky slightly curved, wrist perfectly straight, spoke of formal training, etiquette lessons, the kind reserved for debutantes and heiresses. Her fingers bore calluses at the tips, piano calluses, years of them, and the way she sat, spine straight, shoulders back, chin slightly lifted, was not the posture of an ordinary woman. It was the posture of someone trained from childhood to carry herself like royalty. You're staring, Iris said quietly. Sorry, who are you? Really? Iris looked down at her hands, surprise flickering across her features, as if seeing them for the first time. I don't know, but these hands, they remember something my mind has forgotten. That night, Garrett fell asleep in his recliner, too exhausted to climb the stairs. He woke to the sound of crying, not Ren's. He knew every variation of his daughter's tears by heart. This was adult weeping, muffled but desperate, coming from the spare room. He climbed the stairs quietly and stood outside the door. Through the crack, he could see Iris thrashing in her sleep, tears streaming down her face. Don't! Please don't! Father, I'm sorry. Don't take me away. Garrett stood frozen in the hallway. What nightmares were haunting this woman? What memories were fighting to break through the walls her mind had built? He didn't wake her. Some grief needed to be felt without witnesses. He learned that the hard way after Laurel, but he didn't sleep again either. Morning came, announced by Ren bouncing into the living room, still clutching her stuffed rabbit, Mr. Flopsy, her brown curls wild from sleep. Dad, wake up! You slept in your clothes again. Garrett groaned, every muscle protesting. Hey, baby girl, is it pancake day? It's Saturday, so sure. But Ren, we have a guest. His daughter's eyes went wide with curiosity. Before Garrett could explain further, Iris appeared in the doorway, hesitant and uncertain. Ren didn't hesitate. She marched right up to the stranger with all the confidence of an 8-year-old who had never learned to fear the world. Hi, I'm Ren. Like the bird. Mom named me because she liked birds. What's your name? Iris knelt down, the motion so natural, so instinctive, as if her body had performed it 1,000 times before. She met Ren at eye level, and something in her expression softened. Hello, Ren. I'm Iris. Your dad helped me last night when I got lost in the storm. You got lost? Dad's really good at finding things. He even found Mr. Flopsy when I dropped him at the park last summer. A small smile tugged at Iris's lips. the first genuine expression Garrett had seen from her. I got lost from myself, Iris said carefully. I can't remember who I am. Wren's face grew serious, the comical seriousness of a child confronting adult problems, with the full weight of her 8 years of wisdom. Oh, well, then you should stay with us until you find yourself again. Dad fixes everything, even my bike when I crashed it. You crashed it trying to jump off the Hendersons' porch, Garrett corrected from the kitchen doorway. It was a small jump, Wren protested, making Iris laugh. A surprised, rusty sound, as if she'd forgotten how. Wren studied Iris with those big brown eyes so much like Laurel's. You know what? Mom had sad eyes like you before she went to sleep forever. But Dad says people with sad eyes usually have the most beautiful hearts, because they've seen enough pain to know how to love other people. Garrett's throat tightened. This was the first time since Laurel died that Wren had spoken so openly about her mother to anyone outside their small circle. The first time she'd welcomed someone new so completely. Maybe Wren sensed something he couldn't see. Maybe his daughter had inherited her mother's gift for recognizing broken souls worth saving. Mrs. Aldridge arrived at 9 o'clock sharp, as she did every morning to check on her girl. Though whether she meant Wren or Garrett himself, neither was entirely sure. At 73, with silver hair pulled into a severe bun and eyes that had seen 30 years of social work, she missed nothing. She'd helped raise Wren since Laurel's death, becoming the grandmother the little girl had never known. Garrett Holloway, you'd better not have brought some dangerous stranger into a house with a child. She's not dangerous, Mrs. A. She's lost. Amnesia. Mrs. Aldridge pushed past him, marching toward Iris with the determination of a woman who had faced down worse than memory loss in her career. Let me see your face, child. She cupped Iris's chin, turning it gently but firmly toward the morning light streaming through the kitchen window. Her gaze locked onto the thin scar running along the jawline. Silence. Then a sharp intake of breath. Lord have mercy. Mrs. A, what is it? This scar. Her voice trembled. I've seen it before. In a case file. 2002. The biggest missing persons case Colorado ever had. The scar, Iris whispered, her hand rising to touch her jaw. I fell. From a horse. When I was 12. Father was so worried. The memory surfaced unbidden. A summer day, a startled mare, her father's face white with fear as he carried her to the car, blood streaming down her chin. Real, solid. Hers. Mrs. Aldridge pulled out her phone with shaking hands, typed rapidly, then held up the screen. A newspaper headline from 20 years ago. Thornwood heiress vanishes, 10 million reward. Below it, a photograph of an 18-year-old girl in a white gown at some society gala. Dark hair, pale blue eyes, delicate features, and on her jaw, the same thin scar. Garrett felt the floor shift beneath him. Seraphina Thornwood, Mrs. Aldridge read aloud, only daughter of tech billionaire Edmund Thornwood, disappeared from the family estate in Aspen on October 15th. No sign of forced entry, no ransom note, no trace ever found. Iris took the phone with trembling hands. She stared at the photograph, at her own young face staring back across 2 decades. There was a fountain in front of the house, white lilies floating on the water, and music. There was always music playing. Your mother, Mrs. Aldridge's voice softened. Vivian Thornwood, world-famous concert pianist. Vivian, Iris whispered as if the name was a key unlocking something long buried. She called herself Vivi when Father wasn't around. She taught me Chopin, the Nocturne in E-flat major, her favorite piece. She would sit beside me on the piano bench and guide my hands. The memory washed over her, warm hands over hers, the scent of jasmine perfume, a soft voice counting time. Real, solid, hers. There's more, Mrs. Aldridge said gently. Edmund Thornwood died 5 years ago. Heart attack. He passed away at his desk. Still searching for you. Iris's legs buckled. Garrett caught her before she hit the floor, guiding her to a chair. According to his will, if Serafina was found alive within 25 years of her disappearance, she inherits everything. The company, the estate, the entire fortune. 25 years, Garrett said slowly. That means 6 days. The deadline is in 6 days. Mrs. Aldridge's expression darkened. And if someone has been hiding this girl for 2 decades, that someone will do anything to ensure those 6 days pass in silence. The memories came in fragments over the next few hours. Not in order, not complete, but in shards like broken glass catching light. A wood-paneled study, night, shouting voices. You've embezzled $40 million over 5 years. I have proof. Tomorrow morning, I'm calling the FBI. A woman with silver hair, impeccably dressed, a smile that never reached her eyes. Drink your tea, Serafina. You look tired. The tea tasted bitter. Wrong. Not like tea at all. Then darkness. Then white walls. Then needles. You're sick, Serafina. Your father doesn't want to see you. You're dangerous to everyone around you. Iris gasped, surfacing from the memory like a drowning woman breaking through water. Cordelia. Her name is Cordelia Ashford. She was my father's CFO, his most trusted advisor. She put something in my tea that night. Mrs. Aldridge was already searching on her phone. Cordelia Ashford, currently acting CEO of Thornwood Industries since Edmund's death. She runs the company, and she chairs the board of directors. The board that inherits if Iris doesn't appear within the deadline, Garrett said. The weight of it settled over them like a shroud. She had motive to keep Serafina hidden, Mrs. Aldridge said, and now she has motive to make sure Serafina is never found at all. Garrett's phone rang an hour later. Unknown number. He answered. Mr. Holloway. The voice was female, cultured, cold as frozen steel. I'm Cordelia Ashford. I believe you found something that belongs to me. I don't know what you're talking about. Please, don't waste either of our time. The woman you picked up on Highway 24 last night, she's severely mentally ill. 20 years of treatment. Without her medication, she'll become violent, dangerous, uncontrollable. She's not. You have an 8-year-old daughter. Cordelia's voice cut through like a blade. Wren attends Pine Hollow Elementary. This morning she wore a red jacket and a yellow knit cap. She likes jumping rope with her friend Sophie near the back gate during recess. Garrett's blood turned to ice. If you touch my daughter, touch? Mr. Holloway, I don't make threats. I make observations. A pause, then, here's my offer. Return Serafina to me. No questions asked. In exchange, you receive a new life. College fund for Wren. Any school she wants. A new house. I noticed yours needs repairs. And $5 million cash. Enough to never work another late-night construction shift again. You're insane. You have 24 hours to consider. If you refuse, I'll be forced to pursue legal avenues. Did you know that housing an unregistered, mentally ill person with a minor could be considered child endangerment? Child Protective Services takes such reports very seriously. The line went dead. Garrett looked out the window. At the end of the street, a black sedan sat beneath the oak tree. Tinted windows. Engine running. 2 figures visible inside. They were being watched. Mrs. Aldridge called her nephew, Sullivan Blackwood, a civil rights attorney in Denver, who specialized in corporate whistleblower cases and white-collar crime. He arrived within 2 hours, bringing with him Felicity Huang, a former FBI investigator who now consulted on missing persons cases. They spread documents across Garrett's dining table like generals planning a military campaign. We've been digging since Aunt Margaret called, Sullivan said, his expression grim. What we found changes everything. He pulled out photographs. grainy security footage stills from the night Serafina disappeared. Edmund Thornwood was paranoid. He backed up everything to private servers nobody knew about, including Cordelia. He didn't trust anyone completely, not even his most senior executives. The images showed a young girl slumped in a chair in a wood-paneled study, a silver-haired woman standing over her, two men in dark clothing carrying something wrapped in blankets toward a back door. She drugged her own boss's daughter, Felicity said, and she's been paying to keep her hidden ever since. She produced financial records, a shell company in Delaware, monthly payments to Morris Medical Center in Wyoming totaling $4.2 million over 20 years. That's where they kept you, Iris, a private psychiatric facility, off the books, no real oversight, patients who don't officially exist. Iris sat frozen, Wren pressed against her side. The little girl had refused to leave her since the story began unfolding, holding her hand with fierce loyalty. My father, Iris's voice cracked. Did he look for me? Felicity's expression softened with compassion. Edmund Thornwood spent the last 15 years of his life searching for you. He hired hundreds of investigators, traveled to 30 countries, spent millions. He never stopped believing you were alive. Tarantum. She pulled out one more photograph. An elderly man at a desk, head bowed, a framed picture clutched to his chest. When he died of heart failure 5 years ago, he was sitting at his desk, looking at your photograph. It was still in his hands when his assistant found him the next morning. The sound that escaped Iris was not quite human, a keening wail of grief for a father who had never stopped searching, for years stolen that could never be returned. Wren wrapped her small arms around Iris and held on tight. He didn't abandon you, Wren said with fierce certainty. He just couldn't find you. That's different. My dad still looks for Mom in his dreams sometimes. Doesn't mean he gave up. Means he still loves her. A knock at the door shattered the moment. Garrett opened it to find a woman in her 60s, gray hair pulled into a severe bun, wearing a doctor's white coat. Behind her stood two large men in dark suits. Mr. Holloway, I'm Dr. Vivian Kessler. I'm here to retrieve my patient. There's no patient here. Please. Dr. Kessler's smile didn't reach her eyes. She needs her medication. Without it, she'll have a violent episode. You have a child in this house. Surely you want to keep her safe. Iris appeared behind Garrett, pale but steady. Violent episodes? You mean the ones you created with your drugs? The injections that made me forget my own name? That made me believe I was insane? Dr. Kessler's composure flickered for just a moment. Serafina, you're experiencing delusions. This is exactly the kind of paranoid thinking I warned. You called her Serafina. Sullivan stepped forward, phone in hand, recording. Not patient, not the woman. Serafina. You knew exactly who she was all along. The doctor's face went white. She turned to run, but Felicity was faster, blocking the doorway with the calm efficiency of someone who had made thousands of arrests. The FBI can be here in 20 minutes, Felicity said calmly. Would you like to explain to them why you're attempting to abduct a kidnapping victim for the second time in 20 years? Dr. Kessler crumpled, her professional facade shattering. I didn't have a choice. Cordelia had evidence of malpractice from 25 years ago. A patient death that was my fault. If I didn't cooperate, I'd lose my license. Go to prison, lose everything. The confession poured out. 20 years of lies, of drugs, of systematic destruction of a young woman's identity. That night, Serafina overheard her father discovering Cordelia's embezzlement. Edmund was going to call the FBI in the morning. Cordelia couldn't let that happen. So she took me, Iris said flatly. She couldn't kill you. Too suspicious, too many questions. So she hid you, kept you sedated, told you your father had abandoned you, that you were mentally ill, that you were dangerous to yourself and others. And my mother? Iris's voice was barely a whisper. She died 3 months before I disappeared. Cancer, they said. Dr. Kessler went very still, and her silence spoke volumes. What about my mother? Felicity pulled out another document. There was a toxicology report, buried in files Cordelia thought were destroyed, hidden in your father's private server along with everything else. Polonium-210, Felicity continued, a radioactive substance, causes symptoms identical to aggressive cancer, almost impossible to detect unless you're specifically looking for it. The room fell silent. Your mother wasn't sick, Felicity said gently. She was poisoned, and the last person to have tea with Vivian Thornwood before she fell ill was Cordelia Ashford. That night, after Dr. Kessler had been taken into FBI custody in exchange for her full cooperation, Garrett found Iris in the small backyard garden, the one where Laurel used to grow lavender, now slightly overgrown but still fragrant. She stood motionless, staring at the mountains silhouetted against the stars. She killed my mother, imprisoned me for 20 years, let my father die of a broken heart searching for me, and now she's threatening your family because of me. None of that is your fault. Iris turned, tears streaming down her face, silver in the moonlight. Why are you still helping me? You could hand me over. Take the $5 million, give Ren a better life, a new house, college paid for. Garrett stepped closer, close enough to see the pain etched in every line of her face. My wife used to say something, every night before bed, everyone deserves kindness, especially when they're lost. He paused. Laurel would never forgive me if I turned my back on you. And honestly, I wouldn't forgive myself either. Aren't you afraid? Cordelia is powerful, dangerous. She has resources we can't imagine. I survived 2 tours in Afghanistan. I buried my wife. Fear and I are old acquaintances. A ghost of a smile crossed his features. A corporate CEO isn't the scariest thing I've faced. Then what do? We don't run. We don't hide. His jaw tightened with determination. We fight, publicly, in front of the whole world. We take away her ability to operate in the shadows. That night, none of them slept. Sullivan prepped Iris on what to expect at a press conference. The questions, the cameras, the crushing pressure of public scrutiny. Felicity coordinated with FBI contacts who would be standing by, ready to move if Cordelia made any aggressive moves. Mrs. Aldridge made enough coffee to fuel an army and kept everyone fed. And Ren? Ren sat with Iris on the couch, holding her hand, refusing to go to bed despite her father's gentle suggestions. Are you scared? The little girl asked. Terrified, Iris admitted. That's okay. Dad says being brave isn't about not being scared. It's about being scared and doing the scary thing anyway. Iris squeezed her hand. Your dad is very wise. I know. Ren's voice was matter of fact. I taught him. Despite everything, Iris laughed. A real laugh, surprised out of her by this remarkable child. Ren, whatever happens tomorrow, thank you for believing me when you had no reason to. I had a reason. Ren's voice was solemn. You have kind eyes. Mom always said you can't fake kind eyes. Mean people try, but their eyes stay cold. Yours are warm. Dawn came too soon and not soon enough. The press conference was scheduled for 10 o'clock on the Capitol steps in Denver. Iris stood at the podium wearing a simple navy dress, something she and Ren had picked together at a small shop in Pine Hollow. Nothing designer, nothing flashy, just an ordinary woman preparing to reclaim an extraordinary life. Behind her stood Garrett, Ren, Mrs. Aldridge, Sullivan, and Felicity. In front of her, hundreds of journalists, cameras from every major network, a live broadcast reaching millions across the country and beyond. She stepped to the microphone. My name is Serafina Iris Thornwood. 20 years ago, on October 15th, I vanished from my home in Aspen. The crowd fell silent, hanging on every word. The world was told I ran away, or was kidnapped by strangers, or was dead. She drew a breath, steadying herself. Those were lies. I was drugged and abducted by someone my father trusted completely, held in a psychiatric facility for 2 decades, injected with medications that stole my memories, my identity, my entire sense of self, told that my father had abandoned me, that he didn't want me, that I was dangerous and needed to be locked away for everyone's safety. But 6 days ago, I escaped, and today I'm here to reclaim the truth. Cameras flashed like lightning. Reporters surged forward with shouted questions. Then a black limousine pulled up to the curb. Cordelia Ashford stepped out. At 63, she looked every inch the corporate queen. Silver hair perfectly styled, Armani suit impeccably tailored, an expression of practiced sympathy and concern arranged on her elegant features. 5 lawyers flanked her like guards. She climbed the Capitol steps with the confidence of a woman who had never lost a battle that mattered. How tragic to witness mental illness displayed so publicly. Her amplified voice cut through the crowd's murmur like a knife. Serafina was always a fragile child. After her mother's death, she suffered a complete breakdown. Violence, delusions, self-harm. I have medical records, video footage of her attacking me in Edmund's study, throwing things, screaming threats. She gestured elegantly, and a large screen displayed grainy footage. A young Serafina screaming, throwing books, appearing completely out of control. Whispers rippled through the crowd. Reporters exchanged skeptical glances. The tide of sympathy began to shift. She needs treatment, Cordelia continued smoothly, her voice dripping with false compassion. Not a microphone. Please, let mental health professionals handle this troubled young woman. The tide was turning. Iris could feel it. The doubt spreading through the crowd like poison. The sympathy shifting toward the polished, articulate CEO. Victory was slipping away. Then a small figure broke from behind the podium. Wren. She snatched a microphone from a nearby reporter before anyone could stop her, moving with the quick determination of a child on a mission. "You're a liar!" Her voice, high and clear, rang across the plaza like a bell. Every head turned. "Iris is not crazy. I've been with her for 3 days." The crowd went absolutely still. "She reads me stories every night, even the Velveteen Rabbit without looking at the book, because she knows it by heart. She makes the best hot chocolate with cinnamon and extra marshmallows. She cried when we watched Coco together because she was thinking about her mom. She helped me with my math homework and didn't get frustrated even when I didn't understand fractions. Crazy people don't do those things." Wren pointed directly at Cordelia, her small fingers steady as a blade. "You're just mad because she escaped. You want her dad's money, you're a thief and a kidnapper, and you're a bad person." Scattered applause broke out. One person, then 10, then 100. The tide was turning again, pulled by the fierce conviction of a child who saw truth clearly. Cordelia's composure cracked visibly. Her carefully constructed mask slipped, revealing something cold and calculating beneath. Wren wasn't finished. "My teacher says truth always wins. Maybe it takes a long time. Maybe it takes 20 years. But truth always wins." Garrett rushed forward to scoop her up, but the 8-year-old had already done what an army of lawyers couldn't. She had made the crowd believe. Felicity stepped to the podium with her laptop, connecting it to the large screen. "Cordelia Ashford showed us her video. Now let me show you the real one." This was recovered from Edmund Thornwood's private server, the one he maintained as insurance, backing up everything without telling anyone. He didn't trust easily, not even his closest advisors, and as it turns out, he was right not to. The footage began. Same study, Different angle, different story entirely. On screen, a young Serafina backed away in terror, her hands raised defensively. Cordelia advanced, holding a syringe, her expression cold and purposeful. Please don't. I won't tell anyone about the money. Just let me go. Too late for that, dear. Your father trusts you too easily. He'll believe you over me. And I've worked 15 years to build everything I have. I will not let a spoiled child destroy it. The video showed Cordelia plunging the needle into Serafina's neck with clinical precision. The girl crumpled like a puppet with cut strings. Two men entered from off-screen, lifting her limp body. Then Cordelia's voice, speaking into a phone, perfectly audible. It's done. Take her to the Wyoming facility. Keep her there until I say otherwise. No one can ever know she's alive. The crowd erupted, shouts of outrage, demands for justice. The sound was deafening. Cordelia's lawyers had already begun backing away from her, distancing themselves from the disaster unfolding in real time. FBI agents in dark suits emerged from the crowd, moving with practiced purpose. Cordelia Ashford, you are under arrest for kidnapping, unlawful imprisonment, securities fraud, and conspiracy to commit murder in the death of Vivian Thornwood. You have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you in a court of law. As handcuffs closed around her wrists, Cordelia stopped beside Iris. Face to face. One final moment between captor and captive. You think you've won? She hissed, low enough that only Iris could hear. You're nothing. Just a lucky girl born into the right family. Without your name, you'd be nobody. Iris met her gaze without flinching, without fear. You're wrong. You spent 20 years trying to erase me, but I'm still here, still standing. And you'll die in prison, remembering this moment forever. The moment when the girl you despised defeated you in front of the entire world. Cordelia was led away in handcuffs. The crowd roared its approval. Wren ran to Iris, throwing her arms around her waist. Garrett wrapped them both in his embrace, holding on tight. They stood there, the three of them, as cameras flashed and justice was finally served. The night before the verdict, 3 months later, Garrett found Iris on the back porch. Their spot now, the place where all their important conversations seemed to happen. Tomorrow it ends, she said without turning. One way or another. It ends with her in prison, where she belongs. Iris finally looked at him. In the moonlight, she seemed less haunted than she had 3 months ago. Stronger, more present, more herself. And then what? I'll have access to $6 billion. I could live anywhere, do anything, be anyone. Garrett's heart clenched, but he kept his voice steady. You could. But I don't want Paris or Monaco or Manhattan penthouses. She stepped closer, close enough that he could see the tears glistening in her eyes. I want Sunday morning pancakes. I want homework arguments and bedtime stories. I want a porch that creaks and a garden that needs weeding. Iris, I want you. Her voice cracked with emotion. I want Wren. I want this. Whatever this is becoming. Garrett closed the distance between them. I love you, he said, his voice rough with feeling. Not because you were rich or because you gave it away. I love you because you're the first person who made Wren laugh. Really laugh, since Laurel died. I love you because you look at my daughter like she's the most precious thing in the world. I love you because you chose to stay when you could have gone anywhere. And I love you because you stopped. Tears slid down her cheeks, silver in the starlight. That night on the highway, anyone else would have driven past, but you stopped. You brought me home. You are home, he said softly, wiping her tears with gentle fingers. You've been home since the moment Wren decided you belonged to us. He kissed her then, gentle, certain, a promise sealed under the Colorado stars. Above them, unnoticed, A small face watched from Wren's bedroom window, grinning in the darkness, hugging Mr. Flopsy tight. Finally, her plan had worked perfectly. The federal courtroom in Denver delivered its verdict the next day. Cordelia Ashford, guilty on all counts. 45 years for kidnapping, 20 years for unlawful imprisonment, 10 years for securities fraud, life without parole pending trial for the murder of Vivian Thornwood. She would be well over 100 years old before any possibility of release. Justice, delayed by 2 decades, had finally arrived. Iris stood before the Thornwood estate in Aspen 1 week later. 32 rooms, 3 swimming pools. Gardens with the lily-covered fountains she'd remembered in fragments of dreams. Her childhood home, her inheritance, $6 billion. You could live here, Sullivan said. It's all yours now. Every penny, every property, every share of stock. Iris looked at the mansion, at the memories hiding in every corner, at the ghosts of parents she would never see again, at the gilded cage that had never truly been a home. This is where I was born, she said quietly, but it's not my home. She established the Thornwood Foundation that same week. Missing persons investigations, support for long-term captivity survivors, a network of recovery centers across the country. The Aspen estate became the first center, a place where others who had been lost could find their way back. 95% of the fortune went to charity, to causes her father would have believed in. She kept only enough for security, for Wren's education, for a modest life in a small mountain town with people she loved. And then she went home, to Pine Hollow, to the house with the newly painted blue walls and the fixed porch and the lavender garden she and Garrett had replanted together. To Garrett, to Wren, to family. 1 year later, the house at the end of Maple Street had transformed. Fresh paint, a deeper blue now, the color Wren had chosen. The porch stood straight and solid, rebuilt by Garrett's own hands. The garden had expanded, bursting with color in the summer warmth. But it was still the same home, still warm, still cluttered with Wren's ever more sophisticated artwork, still filled with laughter and love. New drawings covered the refrigerator. The latest one showed 4 figures. My family, written across the top in careful 9-year-old handwriting. Dad, Mom Iris, me, and baby, represented by a smiling circle inside Iris's rounded belly. Iris stood at the kitchen window, 7 months pregnant, watching snow begin to fall on the Colorado mountains. The first snow of winter, just like the storm that had brought her here. Behind her, Garrett made breakfast. Pancakes shaped like animals, as per Wren's standing request. Wren herself sat at the table, attempting with great seriousness to convince her goldfish, Mr. Bubbles, to jump through a tiny hoop. Mom Iris, I've decided. If it's a boy, we name him Cosmo. If it's a girl, Saturn. Absolutely not, Garrett said without looking up from the stove. Iris laughed, a sound that came easily now, naturally, without the rust of disuse. We'll discuss it. Wren abandoned her fish training and ran to hug Iris's belly, pressing her ear against it as she'd done every morning for the past 3 months. Mom, I have a question. What is it, sweetheart? If Dad hadn't stopped that night on the highway, where would you have gone? Iris looked out the window at the distant road. Highway 24, barely visible through the falling snow. The place where she'd stood in the rain, lost and broken, not knowing who she was or where she belonged. The place where her second life had begun. I don't know, Wren, but I know this. Sometimes life pushes us into darkness so we can find the light. And what's your light? Iris pulled the little girl close, feeling the baby kick against her palm. Right here, with you, with Dad, with our family. Wren nodded seriously, satisfied with the answer. My teacher asked what family means. I said, family is people who choose to love each other, even when they don't have to. She gave me an A+. Garrett wrapped his arms around his wife and daughter, feeling the baby kick against his palm. You know, he said, a year ago I was just a guy with a broken porch and a broken heart, driving home in the rain. And now, Iris asked, now I have a fixed porch, a full heart, and a family I never expected. Wren looked up at them both. You forgot the goldfish. Mr. Bubbles' family too? Mr. Bubbles is essential. They laughed, all three of them, as snow continued to fall, blanketing Pine Hollow in white, transforming the world outside into something new and clean and full of possibility. 20 years ago, Cordelia Ashford had tried to steal Serafina Thornwood's life. She had drugged her, imprisoned her, erased her identity, let her father die of a broken heart. She had failed. Not because Serafina was stronger or luckier or wealthier, but because some things cannot be stolen. The ability to love, the ability to be loved, the ability to choose where you belong. Some storms destroy. They tear apart everything in their path, leaving only wreckage behind. But some storms bring you exactly where you need to be. In the small house at the end of Maple Street, a family built not by blood, but by choice shared breakfast together as the first snow of winter painted the world white outside their window. Garrett held his wife's hand across the table. Wren tried to teach Mr. Bubbles new tricks. Iris felt their baby kick, strong and sure, a new life growing from the ashes of the old. That was the real victory, not $6 billion, not justice served, though that mattered too, but belonging. Simply, beautifully, completely belonging, home at last.